Hi, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk to you about Vedic astrology and how it can predict changes in the world, how it relates to your sign, and also how you can use it to plan for events over the next few weeks. Um, I've been doing this broadcast for, I think, um, I say roughly 6 years, close to 6 years now. And I do this basically in cooperation with Greater New Bedford Cable Television, and also I I use this on a YouTube channel. There will be some upcoming episodes which will not be on Greater New Bedford Cable, which will be connected with reviewing uh, books and also with certain interviews with other astrologers. But for the most part, this is the main outlet I use. I am also actively finally working on my book. I have a little break from certain responsibilities I've had over the past few months, so that's a good thing. And I'm looking forward to getting a large part of it done by June. And so um, that's the goal. We'll see how it works out. And let's see if we can go on and let you know that I actually do readings for people. I've been a practicing astrologer for 30 years, president emerita or emeritus of the Council of Vedic Astrology, et cetera, et cetera. Loved by millions, or at least a few people, and tolerated by most. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the upcoming eclipse. Talk a little bit about the March 25th eclipse, which was really striking in terms of at least one event that happened, and also talk about the week in general. So this is going to be a significant week. But first of all, personal advertisement. If you want to contact me for a reading or for lessons, you can either call me at 508-525-0001 or email me at Gary Gomes. Let me see if I can put the captions in here. At Gary Gomes G at gmail.com. So it's 508-525-0001. You can text me at that number, or you can also contact me through email or through Facebook. Facebook, I wouldn't recommend because I have a few different sites and I don't always check the messenger boxes there. So it's a little bit more reliable to text me or to even to send me an email, to be honest. So I don't want to ignore you. And unfortunately, I found that if you contact me through Facebook, sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle. So I'm going to try to fix that. But I want to know you can contact me. Our store is in the process of reopening. Crystal Expectations is in the process of reopening. It's taken longer than we thought. Hopefully by mid-April, that's the plan, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so those are all the current updates. The store is at 854 Brock Avenue in New Bedford, Massachusetts. We've been there for over 30 years, and we closed down for renovations. So let's hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be opening soon or reopening soon, and you'll be able to contact me down there as well. So, but keep in touch with me. Don't be afraid to reach out or call me or text me. I'm not a tough person to communicate with. I'm not really, I really don't get that peevish all that often. And so just like I said, if you have a question, just contact me. Also, if any astrologers are interested in joining me in this format, please feel free to do so. I'd be happy to discuss astrological topics with you. I am going to be doing that more often as the months go on. And that's a promise I made to you months ago, but the winter time has not been kind to me in terms of scheduling. So without further ado and without further background, let's get into it. Let's do it. So I'm going to share the chart for, let's see now. So we had, I'm going to get out of this chart structure. Hold on a second. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to pull up the chart that I want to pull up. There's a little share button on the screen. And let's see if I can find this for you. All right. So this is not the chart I wanted. Sorry, folks. Just let's see if I can pull the chart that I want to pull up. Okay. All right. All right, we're going to try it one more time. All right, the screen sharing is working now. And I'm over here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is the chart for today. All right, so I did want to talk though about the big accident that happened on Monday. Just quickly, if I can. Let's see if I can pull it up. Edit. Yeah, it's not letting me do that. Let's see if I can pull up another screen. And then close this one down. All right, so this is a weak Mercury at its finest. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this screen up. All right, so we're going to look at the eclipse chart, the March 25th lunar eclipse chart. Now, again, depending on the placement, some eclipses can be benevolent. Okay, so that so I have to caution that. So this is going to stand contrary to a lot of thinking about eclipses, but like I said, it's been my experience that some eclipses can be benevolent. This one certainly wasn't. So we're going to go back to this particular chart. So this is the lunar eclipse on March 25th, 2024. So we had essentially what I'm referring to is the bridge, the Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, coming down. Now that's a lunar incident. That's what I would call a lunar eclipse incident. I'm going to stop and share, make sure the screen's up. Sorry for all the flipping back and forth, folks. But there are several indications of some kind of a marine accident in this chart. Number one, the watery planets are really afflicted. Saturn is really close to Venus. The watery sign Pisces is one of the planets involved in the eclipse, and the moon, which is a watery planet, is also in the same sign as K2, which has to do with accidents. So we've seen a lot of travel accidents happen over the past few months, especially air accidents happen over the past few months. That's been part of the buildup to the eclipse. And a lot of it's because of activity happening in Aquarius. I've taken note that there have been a lot of travel accidents or travel injuries during Aquarius. We also had the shooting in Russia. It happened pretty close to that event. And that's also the Mars Saturn combination in the chart. In the sixth house, from, if I have it correctly, from Russia's Lugna, and the fifth house from, and the eclipse occurred in the sixth house from Putin's Lugna, from Vladimir Putin's Lugna. So if we go over here, let's look over here and see where the planetary lines were. That's for mapping lines. So we do have, look at that, a Mars line running really close to where the actual accident happened. So if you didn't have Mars involved in this, and this happened really quickly, as you may have seen from the photographs, it was really devastating. Also, Mercury's pretty much the planet connected with linking things together or bridging things together. Mercury was also extraordinarily weak when this event happened. So essentially any kind of a problem could have happened around that time. And I feel sorry I didn't forecast it this week, but we did have earthquake activity over the sun and moon line over here in the Western United States. And I think I fairly reasonably accurately predicted that. There was a Moscow, I'm not quite sure where Moscow is in this map. There's a Jupiter line sort of close to Moscow going down through this line. And Jupiter actually is aspected by Saturn. So again, it's retribution. It's a retribution planet. So that's why Moscow got tagged. There are also quite a few boating and rail accidents in various parts of the world. I seem to recall one around this part of the world over here in the news. It wasn't a good week, put it that way. In terms of politics, I just want to talk about politics quickly. We had the impeachment hearings, or the impeachment inquiry hearings happening, and they were really aggressive. They were among the most aggressive hearings I've seen. Also, you have a lot of demonstrations happening in Europe, and these will kind of peak over the next couple of weeks. But Eastern Europe, Ukraine, this area looks like a mess, to be honest with you. Over here, because there are conflicting governments. I really wouldn't be surprised if you saw an attempt at a government overthrow in Ukraine, to be honest. And also, there's a recall effort starting in California, again, for Gavin Newsom. Second recall effort in less than 2 years, I think. So, again, it's pretty disruptive. So we're going to go to the map as it's occurring now, but this is immediate eclipse fallout. Eclipses don't necessarily manifest immediately. Again, a lot of my colleagues tend to look at them being 6 months in the future, 6 to 9 months in the future, in terms of where they're manifesting. And also, there's a special qualifier that they have to they'll engage planets which are close to the eclipse lines. So I think that's important to keep in mind. But let me just pull up a now chart. So this is for my area. I'm going to see if you can. I'm going to stop the share and see if I can pull this one up. Yeah. This is the now chart. All right. So this looks like a screen sharing. This is actually the eclipse chart, so I can flip this if I can. If it will allow me to. Okay, so right now, the moon is in Scorpio. It's a Leo rising sign. Sun's in the 8th house, along with Rahu, and Ketu's in the 2nd house. So this indicates some theft or some problems to rulers across the world. This is not a new theme for me. The Sun Rahu conjunction almost always indicates dissatisfaction with rulers or kings or presidents. The Mars-Venus combination over here in this sign indicates, to me, active opposition. Saturn's also aspecting the moon. There's some fear about the future from this particular combination. Now, one of the things that I find interesting about this particular chart is we have the 11th Lord and the 2nd Lord in the 9th house, which is, and they're along with the 5th Lord and the 8th Lord. So that's a kind of a Dana yoga. It's a wealth-producing yoga. But the entire combination is aspected by Saturn over here. So if Saturn aspects these particular planets, it's not going to do too well. So essentially what you're going to see over the next few weeks is increasing pressure on prices. I would say we've seen increasing consumer optimism in the United States, but also you'll see increasing anger and a desire for things to be perfect. So to me, this indicates a need for doctrinal loyalty. Okay, let me see if I can explain what this means in terms that aren't that are fair to both political sides. So you're going to be looking at basically political leaders trying to impossibly please their base. Okay, so you've had the current efforts of I'm going to mention the Republicans in the United States first. The start of a second recall initiative by Marjorie Taylor Greene from the Republicans, and also not really on the Democratic side, but let's say on the Democratic side, trying to please the base, trying to please individuals who are opposed to what's happening in Israel and the Gaza Strip right now. and also trying to placate voters who may desire the state of Israel to survive. So the two are necessarily mutually contradictory, but it's been a fine line. The Democrats have been walking on that. Also, I've noticed in terms of media, the thing that happened with Ronna McDaniels was really interesting because you actually had media personalities going on air and saying you shouldn't hire this woman because she lied, and it was essentially, as far as I could see, it was an attempt to placate to, number one, give, regardless of how you view the anchors, regardless of how you view the newscasters, back up their perspective on what's been happening politically, and also trying to answer, also trying to address the needs of the viewing public. So I found that fascinating because it was essentially, so some people have said, and I actually believe this. I actually believe this myself. It was the establishment of a hostile work environment in order to maintain what they viewed as the journalistic integrity of the network. So I think it's really fascinating to watch these dynamics happening, because you do have people on these networks who were involved in, just to be honest with it, they were involved with the illegal imprisonment of individuals. They were involved with a variety of wars, and so that's okay, but they can't have somebody who is essentially doing her duty or obligation as the head of a party. So it's that Saturn Mars conjunction, which essentially is sort of like a perfectionist conjunction. And I think one of the things is it essentially stuck the bosses of the actual network. I don't feel sorry for anybody around this stuff. I'm just trying to give like a relatively unbiased perspective on this. And so you had that eclipse. So these eclipse moments don't necessarily last for a long time. They'll last during eclipses. You'll have an upset in authority when Mars and Saturn are in Aquarius. Mars will move out of the sign within about 2 months. Mercury is about to go retrograde over the next few weeks. And as a matter of fact, on April 1st, it'll turn retrograde. So this is something so you'll see a lot of what I would call backtracking in a lot of the coverage or a lot of the positions that have been taken over the next 3 weeks. And also, again, confusion over communications. The next 3 weeks, especially around April 8th, when we go to the next eclipse. So I apologize if it was a little too confusing, but just bear with me. April 8th, 2024, and we'll come back to this chart in a second. And I'll get off this really, really soon. All right, So during the April 8th eclipse, there's a sun, moon, Venus, exalted Venus conjunction. So essentially what this does, what I've seen it do, is it generates a lot of truth. Venus, uh, Venus or Jupiter in conjunction with eclipses actually generate a lot of truthfulness coming out. So we'll get like the background information on a lot of the stuff that's been coming out. And we'll also get a lot of stuff that's been hidden for months, maybe even a couple of years, in order to clear the air. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a lot of government overreach, not only in the United States, but across the world, after the sun leaves Aries and leaves Pisces, and goes into Aries within about a week's time. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, within about 2 weeks' time. My apologies. And the main reason I'm saying that is because Saturn is kind of an oppressive planet. And I think you'll also see a lot of confusion over communication. So we'll see a lot of the issues about censorship on the internet resolved, not necessarily in a clear fashion, but resolved. And you'll also see a lot of court cases, essentially, I would essentially say blowing up, but a lot of, I would deliberately call it lying going on about it during the April 8th eclipse. So I'm not calling it misinformation because that's a particular category of misrepresentation. It's, so essentially misinformation as it's become defined is essentially splitting from official government narrative. That's really how I see it. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean that misinformation hasn't in fact occurred, but it also means that essentially it has to do with truthfulness, but a particular kind of what I would call official truthfulness. So the misinformation campaign has been designed to essentially shut down dialogue, not reveal, not allow a debate to occur. So misinformation is not really, it's a state tool. And like I said, it doesn't mean it's incorrect. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that that it's essentially a cudgel, not a correction. So essentially, now the cudgel may be correct. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's a tool. All right. So let's go back to this. So we have Sun Rahu. So we are going to have a lot of governments lying. That's not a surprise. Mercury is going to go retrograde. We're going to have a lot of media misrepresenting things, but doing it in a very scattered way, so they're really not believable. We're going to have a lot of political figures misleading people, and a lot of this stuff is going to happen. It's been interesting because a lot of additional information has come out since Jupiter's been in the United States fifth house, and it's been in Aries. So that's prompted people to take action and actually to modify court decisions. I think you'll see more of that when Venus enters the sign with Rahu, and that'll bring a great deal of outrage among people. It'll particularly bring outrage among the entertainment community. The entertainment community in most countries will be very worked up. And you'll also see scandals coming out connected with the entertainment industry and with religious groups and with spiritual groups. So that's sort of like an obvious. event. I think the other thing you'll see overall is maybe even outright fighting because of the Mars-Saturn conjunction. So just be prepared for that. More aggressive threats. Saturn's aspecting the moon. It'll continue to aspect the moon. It'll continue to aspect. It's aspecting the moon right now. My apologies. It'll continue to aspect Scorpio for the better part of 2025. And so I think anybody with planets in Scorpio had probably better be aware of, of what's going on around them. So essentially, it tends to, people with this particular kind of placements, if Saturn's in the fourth house from either the rising sign or the moon sign, they have to rebuild their positions. They have to prove themselves all over again. It doesn't necessarily mean they'll be thrown out of office, but let's say President Biden has a Scorpio rising, so he's going to have to reassert his position, and there will be a lot of concerns that will continue about his ability to do the job. This will be true of a lot of countries that have strong Scorpios or Scorpio leaders. And I have been watching the news internationally, and a lot of countries are veering right. There was Justin Trudeau doesn't look very safe in Canada right now. The election's not going to be held right now, but Justin Trudeau doesn't look very safe right now. Macron doesn't look very safe in France right now. For the first time, they're showing poll results which indicate that Le Pen might win. And a lot of it has to do with dissatisfaction over the economy. England is also showing signs, but they're showing signs of going further left, but it's mainly because the conservative government has been rather, trying to think of a good way to put it, because I'm not English and I'm not criticizing English politics, but they've been rather fragmented, as you probably notice if you pay attention to English politics at all. Europe is essentially, Ireland has just gone more right wing. And a lot of it has to do with immigration. A lot of it has to do with economic issues. They're feeling it much worse in Europe than we are in the United States. And I think that a lot of those countries are going to be more tempted to be less liberal, less welcoming, because they've gotten overwhelmed by the number of people coming in. It's really not a matter of hatred of other races. That's really not the issue. It's really how much they think they can absorb. So this trend is growing around the world. Whether or not it will persist into elections, that remains to be seen. But that seems to be the way that things are going, at least right now. Now, when Jupiter changes signs, when it goes into Taurus, that may switch back again because Jupiter is going to be in a sign connected with financial growth and financial security. So it doesn't make me think that these countries are going to become more generous, to be honest. So the trends are there for a more conservative lean in the elections. But again, we can always be surprised. There can also be upsets. The October 2nd eclipse, which I've mentioned a few times, is a rather stark eclipse, at least to my mind. It's more dangerous for the Far East than it is for the West. This eclipse is more dangerous for the West. This current eclipse is more dangerous for the West. But our elections in the United States are still several months away. There are many court cases between now and the election, although it looks like there's only one that's guaranteed to take place before the election. But again, that may speed up when Mercury changes signs. But again, everything about this looks like everything's going to be slowed down for at least the next couple of months. Okay, so you're expecting anything to move forward in any of the Trump trials for like right away. Earliest you'll see anything happen, I think, is May. Earliest you'll see any conclusions happen is probably October. Again, this is, and again, I am very concerned about assassination attempts on world leaders, just because of the Mars aspect on K2 in October. So we'll talk about that at greater length later on. The other thing is, so let's go on to the individual signs. The other thing is expect more Earth-based tragedies like earthquakes and things like that, just because of this Rahu K2 combination in Virgo and Pisces, sea and land-based. Also air-based for the time being, just because of the planets that are in Aquarius right now. That's always been a dangerous placement for air traffic injuries, and I think it's something. So caution while traveling is advised. It doesn't mean nobody can travel, but especially over the next month and a half, just be really careful when traveling. So let's go on to the individual signs. I'll try to wrap those up quickly. As a matter of fact, if you look down here, Mercury is like the worst placed, the lowest strength planet right now. So communications right now are just wretched. And that also means that I really wouldn't rely on the news sources right now to give you the best information. It's really a lot of it's scrambled, a lot of it's essentially shouting for positions as opposed to reporting actual news. And that's been the case for ever since this Rahu Mahadash has started. It started before then, but that started around 2015, 2016. And it's going to continue for a while. Okay. So again, we're in the middle of a large, what I would call propaganda war for the hearts and minds of people around the world. And if that's the case, then people will start tuning out news and start tuning in their pocketbooks, their wallets. So even if you do have a good reason for doing something like some humanitarian cause, it will be met with a certain amount of hesitation or even outright hostility among the general population. Although I do believe that people are generally good, but they're not going to trust helping other people all that much. So let's go on to the individual signs. Aries has, and we'll look at the world map in a few seconds. Aries has Jupiter and Mercury in it right now. Temporarily, Mercury's moving direct, so that's a good placement. But Saturn's aspecting Mercury, and Saturn's aspecting Jupiter. So again, this can give some delays in moving forward, some delays in being able to teach and being able to advise. The Lord of the fifth house is in the 12th house. So this will give loss of status, worry about status, worry about children to the sign. K2 is in the sixth house. So again, it's kind of an injury or accident prone placement. Moon is in the eighth. Home life is a little bit disrupted. Venus and Mars are well placed in the 11th house. So that's good for financial gains, but mainly through really controlling expenditures as opposed to making a lot of money. And Sun, as we said before, is in the 12th. So Taurus has Venus, Lord of its sign, in the same sign as Mars in Aquarius. This is actually a good combination for career success with hard work, but again, heavy expenditure will mainly because of overexpansion or maybe overambition or anxiety about status. So if people can avoid being anxious about status or anxious about their relative position in the world, Taurus people will make out a lot better than if they have to worry about keeping up with the Joneses. They'll be spending money excessively to keep up with the surrounding. Whereas if they just work, they'll probably make out better. And let's see now. Fifth house has K2 in it. That's sort of an indication of some difficulty with children. Moon is in the seventh house, so some difficulty with spouse or some unhappiness with relationship life. And relationship partner will be kind of aggressive or kind of prone to fight, wanting things exactly perfect. Sun and Rahu are in the 11th house, so there should be some gain of recognition. But again, don't spend too much money. It's a real temptation for this sign. For a Gemini, Gemini has its ruler in the 11th house of gains. It'll stay there and go back into the 10th house of work. So it will have to work. It will have to recreate a lot of the, it'll have to revisit a lot of the gains it made last month. And K2's in the 4th house. So over the next few months, there will be some disruption at home. Moon's in the 6th house, some worry about finances, but that will slowly get better as the week progresses. And Venus and Mars are in the 9th house along with Saturn. That's actually a good placement for this sign. It will give this sign a lot of courage, a lot of drive, a lot of short-term gains, and a lot of popularity with Sun and Rahu in the 10th house. Mercury in the 11th is actually good, so this should be a good week for financial gains, but slow. A slow rise in financial status. Cancer has the moon is in the 4th house. That indicates a lot of focus on home life and status. So people will be worried about losing status. Again, keep in mind, these are only temporary positions. Don't stress too much about that. These are only temporary placements we're looking at. These aren't long-term placements we're looking at. So right now, there's this worry about status, worry about relative popularity. Don't worry about that. Just do your job. You have Venus, Mars, and Saturn in the 7th house. So relationship partners will seem a little bit aggressive, a little bit perfectionistic, a little tough to reach, but that'll pass as well. So I'm sorry, for Cancer, it's in the 8th house, not in the 7th house. My apologies. But it will affect relationship partners in the same way. 9th house has Sun and Rahu in it. There will be some gains from the government, but again, there may be some worries about reputation from that. And career-wise, Cancer should actually do pretty well this week. But relationship life will be a bit of a challenge, and so will status, concerns over status. For Leo, Leo has the same concerns over status that Cancer has. And also there'll be some worry about security, job security. I think when you see K2 in the second house, this sign can either be engaged in some theft or accused of some theft. But it'll move in unexpected ways. It will get like these large accusations, which will be cut down or ripped apart. Mars, Venus, and Saturn are in the seventh house. It indicates a great deal of loyalty to the sign from people who are even its enemies. And Sun is in the eighth house, so there is worry or concern about status or even a certain amount of panic connected with the sign. This month, panic over loss or imprisonment. Jupiter's in the ninth house, and again, that'll pass within about a month's time, less than that, I think. Jupiter's in the ninth house. This essentially gives good luck in legal matters and good financial gains. But again, there'll be some confusion about financial status within about by the end of the week again. And let's see, so again, some good gains, some unexpected gains for the sign, but again, some reputational problems, definitely. For Virgo, K2 sits in the first house. K2 in the first house is not the worst placement in the world. It makes the sign very intuitive, but very sensitive to diseases or illnesses. It can become depressed pretty easily without a really good foundation. Health is kind of under attack, and it'll be concerned about relationship life and even lonely at times. Moon is in the fourth house. There'll be a lot of focus on home life, and Mars and Venus and Saturn are in the sixth house. That's actually good for overcoming temporary health problems in the chart. And Sun Rahu combination, there'll be a lot more confidence, a lot less satisfaction with letting things lie the way they have been, so there'll be more energy in parts of the sign, although it'll fluctuate a lot. But you'll see the signs sort of like peaking in terms of energy around the April 8th eclipse. And sort of like rejuvenating itself, but it'll have some problems with communication over the next couple of months. Or over the next month, excuse me. Let's see now. And let's see now, career-wise, not a bad placement. Too much to do, though, really, for this sign over the next week. So that's, so it'll come from like being sort of ignored to being almost too much in the limelight. For Libra, Libra has the moon in the second house, so there's a lot of discussion about career, a lot of discussion about money, and career life actually prospers from this particular placement. Venus and Mars are in the fifth house along with Saturn. That's actually a relatively good position for financial growth, but it does require work, it does require writing, it does require outreach, it does require some political maneuvering. Sun and Rahu are in the sixth house. There is a kind of a struggle to regain prestige or regain recognition, but the Gati Lagna, which I don't often talk about, is in the seventh house. So that should actually give some fame to the sign and also some financial prosperity. So I don't talk about these lagnas a lot, Gati Lagna, the Yusur Lagna, and the Aruna Lagna. But basically, these are connected with success in life to a very large extent. And with effort, this sign can become successful again. And with effort, it can actually attain a great deal of money. this is a good combination for attracting new people or new students or new activities, new career opportunities. So this is actually quite good. Let's see now. Venus, by the way, Venus in the fifth house. So this sign has probably been experiencing some increased popularity over the past month or so. That's been because of Venus being in the fifth house. It makes a person really attractive. Um, that'll come again within about uh, two months. Within about, well, actually, it'll stay for the next few months because Venus is going to be well placed from this rising sign. So let's go on to Scorpio. Scorpio has Moon in the first house. So there's some aspersions cast on the sign, some problems connected with luck. Saturn will feel like the sign is a little bit overworked or a little bit overstressed. Saturn aspecting the first. Mars is in the fourth house, so there's some threat or problems in relationship life. Sun and Rahu are in the fifth house, so there's some concern over children misbehaving or children having bad luck. And Jupiter and Mercury are in the sixth house, which does give good financial gains, but again, with a lot of effort. So this is not necessarily a bad week, but again, Scorpio should not really rely on friends or colleagues to help them out. They'll have to help themselves. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has Jupiter in the fifth house. That's a generally good placement. The Saturn aspect creates a kind of a wealth-producing combination, so that's actually good. And Mars aspects its own. Mars, it doesn't aspect its own sign, and Mars aspects the seventh house in this chart. So that's where the Mars aspects the sixth house. So that'll give ability to overcome enemies. Sun is in the fourth house. There is some problems with the status of this particular rising or sun or moon sign over the next year or so, year and a half or so. And again, I would tend to say some violent disruption domestically for this sign. So a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, but overall able to achieve its goals or its ambitions. And K2 in the 10th, a lot of the activity, a lot of the initiatives that will put forward will tend to be seen as being a little bit unrealistic, but if you persist, they'll succeed. Moon is in the 12th. That's the Lord of the eighth house and the 12th. That's a good combination. So you should actually have some success this month. For Capricorn, Capricorn has Venus, Mars, and Saturn in the second house. That's a good combination for financial success. But again, some of the methods used may be a little bit suspect. Jupiter sits in the fourth house, so there'll be ethical concerns with on the home front. K2 sits in the ninth house, so unexpected breaks in luck. And Moon sits in the 11th house. So again, friends may be a little bit untrustworthy or a little bit sneaky. For Aquarius, you have Venus, Mars, and Saturn in the first house. This creates a Sash Yoga and also a Raj Yoga with Venus being there. So that is actually a good sign placement for this chart. But again, there'll still be dissatisfaction with money and desire for additional money and additional recognition. Moon is in the 10th house. So again, status in career is a little bit down, but that'll abate over the month, and there'll be more confusion about money issues over the next few weeks for this particular sign. So overall, not a bad week for Aquarius, but again, we're in for about another 3 to 4 weeks of confusion about money issues. Finally, for Pisces, we have Sun and Rahu in the first house. There's an expectation of an ideal world with this combination. Case you will have people saying practically this can't be done. Jupiter and Mercury are in the second house, so it will be better for financial growth for this particular sign. But again, a lot of financial expenditure and a lot of dubious luck, so luck that won't last that long. So not a bad week, but certainly not really stable. So let's go on to the map. I only have a few minutes left. And let's go on here. Well, get out here. And we're going to go back to it again. So the problem areas, as I'm seeing them, are near the Aleutian Islands and some economic distress to Hawaii. We have a Jupiter line running through California and the moon line running through Texas and New Mexico and down into Mexico and down through Argentina. And we should see some violence near Guatemala and near El Salvador, it looks like, and also Louisiana up through Michigan. Saturn line, some economic distress going all the way down to Georgia and Cuba and Panama. And there's a Venus line running all through Venezuela, Peru, and down into Chile. And Sun, Rahu, and Mercury lines running through Brazil. So those countries are going to have economic issues. We'll have some economic issues in the eastern United States, although New England and New York don't look all that damaged. So let's go over to Europe. Jupiter's hitting Iceland, and there's a Mars line running right through, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. There's a Mars line running right through England, London, Paris, down into Spain, all the way into Algeria. And I know the French Empire the French hidden shadow empire has been under attack lately. So we should see some violence in this part of the world connected with the French. And there's a Venus line running right through Norway and Germany, and that will cause some problems or some arguments over benefits to people. There's descending sun line running through Turkey and into Egypt and down in, so there may be some shifts or some government protests in Israel, down through Sudan, down into South Africa. There's a Rahu line running through Saudi Arabia, up through Iran, and up through Russia. And there's also a Rahu line running up through Russia. So that part of the world is a little bit tense right now, and there'll be a lot of investigations, a lot of blaming. Bad communications coming out of Russia and out of Pakistan, Afghanistan. There's a Jupiter line running through India, so inflation should be a problem there. And there'll be some conflicts on the eastern Indian line, and going through some economic recession in China, Vietnam, and all the way into Japan and Australia. So this isn't a happy map. The only really good things I can see is this Venus line going down here. But overall, we're seeing a lot of economic distress around the world and a lot of potential for accidents, especially here, and here, and here. Okay, so that doesn't mean the rest of the world is exempt from those, but I think you're going to see a lot more potential accidents. So that's it for this week. I got to run. As always, it's been a pleasure visiting with you. I hope everyone's doing well, and God bless you, and I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, comment, and share if you would be so kind. Thank you.